Dito! Dito! Ano ba daw? Niño, wata. Dale! Iya, ay, gusto ko din. Sige lagi. Sige lagi. Atra. Yang mulai. Semua.
Everybody, that was Marina Los lunares de tu cuerpo. That was the song that was just playing a couple of minutes ago. How's everybody doing on this good morning? On today's podcast episode, we are doing our first ever series episode of Morning Talks with yours truly. I am your host, Ro, and we are going to do just morning conversations about anything Hunter x Hunter related, or any other type of series that I'm invested in. Currently, that would be Hunter x Hunter. Today's conversation, being more so on the casual end of things, is just talks about what Hisoka's mom would have been like. Now, what we do know about this character, which is very sparse, there's little information. It's mostly within the pre-canon. We know that essentially everything that was taught as far as cardmology, which is kind of the study of cards, especially within Romani people. Speaking of which, my theory for what type of person she is as far as like authenticity / race and all that other stuff goes is most likely Hispanic Romani. Whatever type of Hispanic, that is up to audience interpretation. I assumed either Mexican or specifically Andalusian, which is within Spain. One of the two for me, but for everybody else, it's up to your personal interpretation. But Hispanic of some sort, as well as Romani, is the type of person that I think she is, as far as like, again, authenticity goes. Now, for her personality, I don't really know much about her personality, but I can say she was probably a very, strong and forward type of person. Probably the type of woman, right? Because I'm sure it wasn't like easy raising that man. But I'm sure during her time, she was a woman that persevered, I would say. I would say that for the most part, her hardships were very vast. She most likely passed away due to an illness, so rest in peace to that, at a young age, mind you. She probably had Hisoka at a young age. Now I'm not sure what age she might have had him. I want to assume somewhere in the teens. So I'm guessing 16 to 19 might be the age range that we're going with. So like very young. And as far as my research about Romani civilization in general, the type of father, right, that Hisoka might have had probably was not really allowed, right, because again, it's due to them also being within a kind of patriarchal society. The men of the family within Romani families are kind of allowed to bring outsiders, just a little bit of an allowance for that for them, versus like the women kind of not being allowed, or they'll be like completely banned from the village/community that they're in, is what I have been, essentially been reading as far as research goes. But she might have had an exception, so she was still within kind of the land's perimeters, which, by the way, I want to add the detail of her being the equivalent of American. According to the Hunter x Hunter world, it's Saharitan, but that's just their version of America. So over there, it's essentially USS. Over here, it's US of A. So for nationality's sake, that is the last portion. So Hispanic, Romani, and Saharitan there, but our version would be American. And of course, what type of state is most likely related to Glam Glassland? I discussed that it's most likely Las Vegas. So with that being said, we have a very, strong and forward Hispanic Romani American that lives in probably the Hispanic region of Las Vegas, which, by the way, I was doing some research. Is like, are there any like high populations of Hispanic people in Las Vegas, or just Nevada in general? And it's like, yes, turns out there's a very high amount of cities that mainly have like Hispanic culture within it, or the most people that tend to populate that area is Hispanic people. So that was just nice to figure out as I'm doing this research for his mom, which, by the way, I haven't even started doing the research for him yet. But I'm going to say this, right? Within the pre-canon, when discussing Hisoka's mom, he has a very high regard for her, right? So I assume with all the hardships and despite everything that she might have had to go through, especially most likely being below the poverty line, right? We're not dealing with the wealthiest of families this time. So it's kind of the opposite end of last time when I was discussing the Zoldyck family, how, there's abuse and there's all of this other stuff and they're wealthy. This time, it's more so just like, for Hisoka's end of things, neglect from his dad. He's not even in the picture. And, we have, of course, a single mother who is below the poverty line, who, she was doing her best. I'll say that much. I don't like, and I don't know why this is a trend, I'll say, of kind of just knocking down the person, most likely the mom, that decided to stay and raise the kid. I'm like, why are you knocking them down? I feel like if anybody deserves the harsh treatment or the disregard, it's the parent that kind of left, most likely the dad, because rarely do women tend to leave. I'm not going to deny that it does happen, because I'm sure it does, but it's rare. It's not as common as men leaving their families. Oh, that's another topic for another day when I actually do even more research on that. But this is what I will say, right? As far as her personality goes, I'm sure she was a sweet and motherly person. I'm sure of that, right? within a lot of people of color / I would say ethnic cultures in Pacific, we are known for being collective, right? We're known for sharing food and many other things with different people. We're known for a high amount of communication. That's kind of our thing. So I have no doubt that that's probably all of the traits that seem to be aligned with this woman, right? One of the things I will say is her sacrifices were probably also very large, right? It's like, I don't have that much to eat or that much to give my children, but I'm going to try my best. And I say children, but in this case, I think Hisoka most likely, before she passed away, was an only child from her, right? And after she passed away, I think that's when he met like Abaki and kind of had like foster siblings, if you will. But beforehand, it was just him and his mom, you know? And that type of mother and son bond is very tight, I would say. It's very close. Obviously, it would be very close because, again, within the pre-canon, he talks about her in a very high regard, being like, she taught me essentially what I kind of know. So, with that being said, I feel like in part of Hisoka's like Nen and stuff like that, it's like, it was probably self-taught. However, who has strongly influenced him, especially with the cards, and again, kartmalaji, I believe is how you pronounce it, is the study of cards. Specifically, just the study of cards in general. Cartomancy, I'm saying it wrong. Oh my god, y'all. It's cartomancy, but how cartomancy, again, like I mentioned before, I deleted one thing, but how cartomancy tends to be studied, it is specifically with Romani people a closed practice, because how they specifically study it is kind of just different from everybody else. Of course, they still have all the symbolisms that go with reading cards and stuff like that, but their way of reading it is special. And of course, some Romani people, which I do believe Hisoka's mom might have done for, you know, collecting money, would have been like things like fortune telling and just things of that nature, psychic readings, you know, things like that. Is probably one of the ways that she has gained money. She probably, because Las Vegas, right, is known for their casinos, right? She might have been involved within that, right? I don't know what type of people this woman might have met, but she might have also met all kinds of people. Who knows? She probably met a couple of mafia people then and there. You know, like predicting their futures and stuff like that to gain some form of money. Again, this woman probably, due to her just trying to, you know, pick up some money and raise what she could, again, she probably bumped into so many different types of people. God knows what her adventures might have been like. We need to do like kind of what her adventures were like. That may be a fun thing. Let's see. So another thing, and I just want to sit and think for a minute, right? About her. I believe like most of, probably like, for example, Hisoka's like charm and stuff like that. I do believe that the influence, again, is probably with his mom. She was also probably a very charming woman, right? I can't really say much about his dad at all, but from what I can imagine, I don't think he's a good father. Obviously not a good dad if you're just going to be abandoning your kids. I feel like, you know, if you abuse or abandon your kids, you're just not a good dad, right? That's the common consensus. I feel like everybody who has their, head on tight and right can agree with me that, if you're abusive or negligent, you're not a good parent. But the woman that did stay, his mom, I believe that she was a very charming woman, right? Which probably helped with what she had to do for the sake of basically keeping a roof over her and her child's head. I think that's all that I want to say for now when it comes to morning talks, specifically about like Hisoka's mom. I didn't do as much research right now because I'm still on Hisoka's like fiance and kind of his life. Yeah, I'm still in Lumi's life right now. When I get to more so like Hisoka's life and what's that like and his character analysis, when I get to doing that, I'll definitely talk more about this woman. But I just wanted to talk at least a little bit, kind of like an introduction to what I am going to do, which is basically kind of analyze her. You gotta understand his mom to kind of understand him. So that's just what I am doing as of recently. Having a lot of fun kind of exploring specifically Mexican Romani / Hispanic Romani culture. It's been a great couple days. I have listened to like a whole bunch of flamenco music, which did come from, again, the Hispanic Romani population in Andalusia, which is again in Spain. So I've been exploring that, but obviously it's in other sectors as well. There's also like Mexican flamenco as well. So it's mostly within the Spanish sector of the Romani population, because there's different types of Romani people. There is Romani people in Eastern Europe, in obviously the Hispanic regions that I've discussed. There's Romani people there are Romani people like in India too, which is their place of origin. The Romani people, like ancestors originally came from India, so they are of Indian descent. But due to all types of conflicts, they kind of just had to leave. And ever since, they kind of just been sporadic. From what I could tell, they don't really have like a nation of their own, and they never really did have one of their own. They kind of just been everywhere. You'll see a Romani person from kind of all over the world type of thing. Their discrimination, which is probably something to add, because of course you can't talk about Romani people without talking about the discrimination they face, which is again another reason why they tend to leave from one region to the next and they can't stay. They tend to be highly discriminated, and there is like all kinds of negative stereotypes about them. It is horrendous, right? They tend to be treated like the worst everywhere, but especially from what I've seen, Europe. But then again, Europe is not known for treating any people of color very well, and how they treat their Romani population is absolutely terrible. It's horrendous. So of course, do I feel like she probably also again faced some sort of racism, because this is like essentially the US. You are gonna bump into people like that. Yes, I do probably believe that. A lot of people also, I don't know if Hisoka does this, but I wouldn't be surprised. A lot of people of Romani origin, unfortunately, they tend to hide the fact that they are Romani because they don't want to be discriminated against. Again, the amount of discrimination against Romani people tends to be very high. So it is to the point where some of them simply hide that fact. Like, that is a fact that you will not know about me, right? Because I don't want to be hate crimed on. And a lot of their practices are closed also due to that reason, along with many other reasons, which, by the way, I feel like certain people right? Don't like the fact that certain cultures are just closed. Me personally, there's like certain things within Congolese / many other African cultures that are closed themselves, right? Like, I'm Congolese. I kind of understand what it's like to have closed things that are just for us. So, in respect of all that, I don't feel like I would be the type of person to pry. Like, if something is closed, it's closed, you know? One of the things that tends to be somewhat closed, even though you can understand like some of it, I'm pretty sure there's some things that you can learn online, and that is specifically the Hispanic Romani's like Pacific language, because they speak Spanish, of course, but along with Spanish they also speak Galo. That is the language that they tend to have, and each Romani population kind of has their own language. For them, it's Galo. That is more so of the closed-ish language that they speak. I say closed-ish because you can go online and learn some of the things, right? Maybe some basic things like numbers, the alphabet, maybe a couple of words then and there. But if you're looking to learn like maybe full-on sentences or kind of dive deep into the language, I did the research myself. It was not easy to find the sources, right? I would say it's a little bit more on the challenging end. And again, it's due to it being kind of strictly for their population. According to the rules for Romani people, only other Romani people can, basically speak the language, and many other closed things that they tend to do. The only other way you can essentially be involved in their closed practices and their closed language is if you marry into, a Romani family, or you marry a Romani person and they basically teach you. So, will there be like some private moments? This is going back to like Hisoka, which is her son. Would there be like some private moments in the like near future in which maybe with the Kalo that he does remember? I don't know how much he remembers, because again, that's probably when he was like a kid. But you'd be surprised what the human mind can remember. So would there be like moments in which like Illumi knows like some Kalo due to that? Most likely, yeah. I'm not gonna deny that at all. So that might be like a fun kind of thing that tends to happen as well. Just kind of as far as like language goes. With food is very important, for both, again, like Hispanic and Romani people, and due to, this character most likely being both of a specific type of Romani being Hispanic, food is very important. What type of food? I'm sure there's all types. I'm sure it's a mixture of, due to, again, them being from Indian descent, there's definitely a lot of Indian influence that's probably applied to, according to my theory, Mexican food, or any other type of Hispanic food, depending on the person. For me personally, I think it's probably a mixture of, her food might be a mixture of both like Mexican food with an Indian influence. So that might be, fun to taste, I think. I think she was also known, kind of another thing to kind of dive into, I think she was also known for dancing, right? And again, I talked about like flamenco. It's a very beautiful dance, right? The music, of course, is very... It tells a story. I'll say that much. It tells a story. Flamenco music. You can just hear it, and you could hear all kinds of tales. Just kind of how that person feels, You could just feel the energy of that music. I love flamenco music. I think it's beautiful. But yes, again, it came from the Hispanic Romani population. They invented it, and it does have influences from other cultures, but they're the ones that kind of like concocted it together and made flamenco the music genre that it is today. If it wasn't for the Hispanic Romani population, we would not have flamenco music. So, give it up to them. I do believe that obviously, probably one of the most obvious examples is like Hisoka's theme song. I recognized it, but originally, unfortunately, this is a mistake that a lot of people make, myself included. I accidentally gave credit to the white Spanish population. That was my mistake, because up until, I was doing research when I was 17, before the age of 17 for me, I didn't know that the actual creators of flamenco music was, again, the Hispanic Romani population. I accidentally gave credit to white Spanish people. It's like, no offense to them, but they didn't invent the music. It's not their music. It belongs to the Romani people. So my mistake on that one. And when I heard his theme song, which is, again, essentially flamenco music, my first thought was like, oh, that's just Spanish music. But I didn't know what type of Spanish people made that music. And then when I researched the type, it was like, oh, that makes so much more sense somehow. So there's that on my little adventure when it comes to research. So if you ever research like flamenco music, just remember that Romani people made that. That's their thing. But yeah, I'm going to obviously do a lot more research when it comes to Hispanic Romani people and kind of like how their lives are like. This is just the little information that I have, done the research on so far. But you got to just dive into it. It is a really beautiful culture. And again, I believe there's just a heavy amount of influence of that culture, as well as just how Hisoka's mom tended to raise him. Now, sweet as she may be, I don't think she was the type of woman to just like let things slide, right? I don't know what type of discipline she may have given to her kids, but her kids as in one kid, but there was probably some form of that, right? I don't think she was passive in any kind of way, but she was just a single mom who had 2 jobs. She was out here just doing her very best. So I think that's just everything that I think about, his mom. I think she's definitely an interesting woman that I would love to make more theories about and kind of explore more. So I'll definitely do that. Obviously, this is more of a sporadic kind of conversation with the little research that I have so far and just me talking casually about her, because again, I think she is a very interesting hypothetical character. All right, that's it for morning talks today. I will see you guys next time whenever I can. Bye.